What if I told you that roughly 20 years ago, a Baltimore police officer shot and killed a 14-year-old kid? The department thought it was murder. They charged him with manslaughter. And then because of some legal maneuvering and the help of the union, this cop was allowed to remain a cop for 20 damn years, secretly, still getting paid with no gun and no arrest authority. Ladies and gentlemen, that is exactly what happened in Baltimore. Almost 20 years ago, a police officer named Edward Gorwell beat not only criminal charges, but administrative hearing charges as well. Edward Gorwell had shot and killed a teenager in 1993 and was charged with manslaughter. Years went by as the case wound through the court system and was dropped eventually by prosecutors in 1999. Let's put up a picture of this disgraced officer. There he is. He's been getting paid, and I've done the research. I know how much he's been getting paid. We'll talk about that in a minute. He's been getting paid even though the department and the justice system believed he committed murder, manslaughter, shooting a 14-year-old in the back. Here's some background to it. Gorwell joined the police department in 1990. In 1993, he fatally shot 14-year-old Samant D. Thomas in the back. The boy was fleeing from a stolen car in a densely wooded area at the edge of Gwynns Falls Park in West Baltimore. Gorwell said at the time he heard a gunshot and then opened fire, hitting the running teen. No gun other than the cop's gun was found at the scene. So what do you have here? 20 years ago, 14-year-old kid running away. White male police officer shoots, kills the kid, and claims, hey, I thought I heard gunfire. No gun was ever found. He gets charged with manslaughter. He has to go to trial. His department, well, they believe he's dirty. They believe he did it. Let's put up another picture of this clown. I found this picture at a place where cops trade patches with one another. He has a patch account. His first trial in 1993 ended in a mistrial. Why did it end in a mistrial? Because one of the jurors failed to show up for deliberations. That's the only reason why. After a series of appeals that reached the US Supreme Court, Gorwell was scheduled for trial again in 1999. Keep that year in mind, 1999. They're trying to get this guy. They believe he committed manslaughter. They think he unlawfully shot a kid, a 14-year-old, in the back. 1999, trial happening again. What happens? 2 days before the trial date, just 2 days, ladies and gentlemen, a police crime lab technician magically decided to conduct a test for gunshot residue using new testing equipment which had been unavailable to police in 1993. The test revealed traces of gunshot residue from Thomas's left hand, being the kid. Police said at the time, even though no weapon was found at the scene, prosecutors then dropped the case on the morning of the scheduled trial. So years later, right before his next trial, the crime lab magically finds gunshot residue on the hand of the victim. There's more. In 2002, fearing that Gorwell might prevail in an administrative hearing, the department agreed to let him stay on the force at an officer's salary and eligible for a pension, but without police powers and without a gun. Why is that? Because they knew he was dirty as hell. but he can stay on the force. We'll just take away his gun. We'll take away his police powers. We'll let him keep drawing a salary taxpayers have been paying for this clown for decades. There's more. The Inspector General's office said in a report released Wednesday that it received a tip complaining about the arrangement, investigated and determined Gorwell's permanent suspension of his police powers made him eligible to be fired because he was unable to carry out his duties. Now I want you to see this, ladies and gentlemen. They are already reframing the discussion. I don't give a damn about him being fired. He's supposed to be in jail. He's supposed to be in prison. But now the conversation is about should he be employed or not. Over the last 5 years, Gorwell's salary rose from $83,800 to $92,500. The man got paid more money while he earned significant amounts of overtime each year, overtime between $28,000 and $35,000 annually. The Inspector General's office said Gorwell was paid $600,000 total over the past 5 years alone. What did this officer have to say? Now, he was allowed to resign. They still didn't even fire the guy. They let him resign. He said, and I quote on social media, "I have had the honor and pleasure of working with some of the greatest heroes on earth." Gorwell wrote on Facebook, this was August 1st. "To those who are still in the grind, stay true to yourself, stay safe, back each other up like they did for him, and join the club in your terms." No remorse, no guilty conscience, nothing. Baltimore, the system allowed for this to happen as well. Injustice all the way around, and that the conclusion of it is still a dead 14-year-old kid from 20 years ago who never got the justice he deserved. Big Woz, what are your thoughts about this?
You know, it's crazy that the guy so clearly did a poor, he was bad at his job, right? And so they come to the decision that he should no longer be on the streets, meaning he shouldn't be allowed to police people. He shouldn't be allowed to carry a badge and a gun. So it's like, obviously his incompetence is well known, so they take him off the street. But you know, the other thing that strikes me, Dr. Richey, is that generally we believe in, labor power, right? Except for in the case of police unions, man, these guys aren't protecting like paid sick leave and vacation pay and great health benefits and all of that. Basically, they're protecting these guys' rights to shoot people whenever the hell they want. 99.9% of labor unions, that's not what their function is, right? It's those things that I mentioned before. It's like keeping your job intact. Whereas the police, it feels like oftentimes all they serve to do is to justify abhorrent behavior by officers. We're not talking about, the livelihoods of people and making their jobs dignified work and places that are worthwhile showing up to and not being pushed around by their bosses and managers. The union just comes in and says, no, these guys should have the right to indiscriminately kill the citizens of the state. And it's sad, it's awful. And the fact that this guy is gonna collect a pension and that, he made 120 G's a year for the last 5 years to be an awful cop, right? Not to be great at his job, to suck at his job. That's just awful.
Yeah, and this is why people have a problem with the protections in policing. This makes no sense in any other profession other than policing. And at the center of this was obviously the police union. They're still to this day standing with that same guy.